Excellent. Welcome everyone to the Strategic Asset and Planning meeting for the 11th of November. I'll just do the live stream. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and published in accordance with the Council's live streaming and recording of public meetings policy. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. We obviously have us in the chamber and there's a few apologies tonight. Councillor Dennis, Councillor Turner, Councillor Grundy and Councillor Downwood. Item 1, members' declaration of interest. Is there any? No. Item 2 is public forum, which is nobody here. Item 3 is confirmation of committee minutes from the Strategic Asset and Planning meeting that was held on the 9th of September. Can I have a mover and a seconder that those minutes are true and correct? Councillor Ireland, Councillor Goodman, all those in favour? Item 4, matters laid on the table. There is none, so we'll go straight into item 5, reports for decisions, and this is the road safety star rating, and I'll pass over to Mr. Willsmore.
Thank you. Just brought the Ausroads have released the National Major Arterial Road Safety Star Rating Review, so this aligns with a federal road safety initiative to address and identify arterial roads, so major roads within Australia, based on a number of different conditions. It's a safety rating, so 1 star being least safe and 5 star being the most safe. We have suggested, based on the report, that most states in Australia, bar Queensland and South Australia, are yet to provide their data, which is disappointing for us wanting to look at the state's roads. So we have suggested that we recommend to Council to write to the South Australian Minister for Infrastructure and Transport requesting the South Australian AusRAP safety star rating data is publicly released. I did follow up with Ausroads when the report was released, asking why was South Australia's data missing and were they included in the program. So they have been included in the program, their roads have been assessed, but the state government is still working through the data to verify their results.
Right. Any questions for Mr. Willsmore around this? Councillor Goodwin?
Yeah, just a question if I may, and you might not have the answer to that, but what does verify their data mean? I mean, if the data has been published in the national report, what are they verifying it against? Or
so it hasn't been published in the national report yet, so they've got the base data, so the assessment's been done. So without speaking on behalf of the state government, I'll assume they're making sure that their data, that their own internal data aligns with the data carried out by this program. So I would suggest they're still reviewing that before they release it publicly.
Right, so there is though some data that's been provided in that summary, the national summary about kilometres and things like that?
No, none of that includes South Australia data. That includes the rest of the country, bar Queensland and South Australia.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? No, so we have a recommendation there that the Strategic Asset and Planning Committee recommends the Council writes to the South Australian Minister for Infrastructure and Transport requesting the South Australian AusRAP safety star rating data is publicly released. Do we have a mover for that? Mayor Ross and Councillor Arena seconds. All those in favour? And that is carried. Thank you. We have item 5.2, speed sign request, radar speed sign request.
Thank you. So we'd received a request from a resident who had recently been travelling around Western Australia and noticed that a lot of townships in Western Australia had radar speed signs on the way into their speed restricted areas, and suggested that our council could look at installing the signs as well. He found them quite useful and caught the attention of him when he was driving through the towns. We have council owns a similar type of sign. It's a portable sign that we use for our urban works. If we're doing footpaths and the like, it has a radar and puts a green happy face or a red sad face if people are speeding greater than the posted speed limit. We did notice in our work zones that it did change the behaviour of the road users, and interestingly enough, Northern Areas Council did install some of these signs in 23-24. So the resident on discussion where he thought would have been the preferred locations was Smith Street first up and Jenkins Terrace, both state roads. So we would have to liaise with DIT on the approach and installation of these signs. They did previously put on some conditions for northern areas. Nothing major, didn't stop them installing them clearly. So if elected members are supportive of this proposal, we could follow up with DIT, undertake some investigations and include it in the 26-27 draft budget for review.
Any questions, Mayor Ross?
Daniel, is Jenkins Terrace 60?
Yes.
Okay. So why do we have 50 coming in on Smith? Why is that delineation there?
So they're both state government roads, and SAP look after speed limits as well. So I'm responsible for monitoring speed limits. So I can't answer. I would suggest Smith Street's got higher pedestrian usage and traffic numbers, so that was their delineation. So Jenkins Terrace is still a heavy vehicle route, so I'd assume that's why that's 60, not 50, compared to the surrounding urban areas. But we have not requested DIT do a review of Jenkins Terrace if that's where you're heading. But yeah.
Councillor Ross?
Do we have any data in regards to the number of people getting speeding fines in particular areas? Can we get access to that data?
I haven't requested. We could put that through to SAP at a high level. We've got crash data. We can get that fairly readily, not in terms of the number of people speeding. So we could go through DIT when, similar to our traffic counters, that does measure speed as well. So that would give us an indication on what the average speed is or maximum speed of people who use those roads.
Because I think if you look at the Naracoorte Road, it's quite a wide road. I know a lot of people sort of do tend to speed a bit going out of town on there. There is obviously houses all along there, so that's probably one area that I do have, because I've had complaints about people getting caught for speeding along there, they're sitting on 60 when they really should be doing 50.
Yep.
So it's their fault.
Councillor Almond?
Thank you. Sorry, Dan, you're going to hate me again. But as far as what's the direction behind DIT saying, no, we can't show speeds on one of these signs, and you're going to say, I can't answer that. But I mean, I've seen signs in South Australia, I'm sure, that have got speeds indicated. So are they SAPOL that have done that, or is it DIT when they choose they can do that, or what's?
It came through DIT, so DIT are responsible for speed limits. SAPOL are responsible for enforcing them. Again, I can't answer, like you said, I can't answer for DIT, but I would suggest human nature and mainly young males, if you're recording your speed, it may become a competition about how fast you can go on that road. So I would suggest that could be some of the behaviour behind it, but we haven't investigated with this region of DIT, so that can, if we want to follow through with it, we can do that and we can get an answer to your question when we speak to them.
Yes, if we could, please.
Councillor Goodman?
Yeah, I'm supportive of this idea, and I know for myself it makes me think twice when I see those signs, whether or not they give you your speed or just a smiley or a sad face. So I think it is effective. The way this is written makes it sound like we're heading towards permanent installation of those signs in those two locations. Do you think that would be the best way to go, or would it be worth considering having portable ones that we could move to other places as they become problematic?
That's certainly an option, just to try to encourage speed reductions across the board. The portable ones do have an issue, so ours are very portable, so we remove them every day. Otherwise, they could get vandalised or relocated. So you just have to make sure that they were portable but secure enough not to get chucked on the back of you and taken at night. So it'd be that aspect of it, but I'm sure that's been thought of before, so it's certainly an option we can have a look at. This was, as you indicated, this is written as permanent signs, but there's nothing stopping us as part of our investigation looking at the options of having portable signs and rotating them around the district.
But it perhaps would make sense to have a permanent one in Smith Street, and there's lots of infrastructure around that would probably make installation of that, without knowing a whole lot, reasonably straightforward. But I would be interested in knowing what the other options are in terms of portable ones.
Councillor Warren?
No, look, I'll just quickly speak against it. I think just all the new technology in vehicles now have all the current speed locations on your dash and give you warning lights flashing if you're going over 60. So I just don't think it's a wise spend of money.
No worries, thank you. When we talk about putting on Smith Street, what is a particular end of Smith Street?
I'd be in the 50k zone, so both ends.
Yep. Both ends.
Yep.
Cool. So I'm open to, there's obviously a recommendation there that we do further investigation into the placement of solar powered speed radar signage within the 50 kilometre zones on Smith Street and Jenkins Terrace. I don't mind the idea of portable ones because I feel like it's something you could even move around when it's school terms and starts of that, because people kind of forget that they need to be doing 25 around school zones. But that's good.
I'd like to move that recommendation. It doesn't specify either way, portable or permanent, but if both of those could be included in the investigation, then I think that's useful information to base the decision on, so I'd like to move that.
Excellent. Councillor Goodman, seconded Councillor Rayner. Happy with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Beautiful. Can I have a show of who is in favour? Those against? Those carried. With item 5.3, the proposed sale of land corner of Smith Street and Stewart Terrace, Naracoorte. That has Alex, who is not here, so who's taking that one? Paul?
So, as you recall, back in February, Safecom approached Council in regards to acquiring a parcel of the Road Reserve along Smith Street. They've since come back and realised, subject to their concept design, as per in the report, that they may require a further slice of land towards the west. So, basically, this has come back to Council to seek the endorsement of the elected members to further discuss the proposed acquiring of the land. Now, the design or earmarked land is basically a high-level snapshot of the area they're sort of seeking to propose, but it hasn't been surveyed and therefore hasn't met the requirement setbacks through the surveyor for line of sights and so forth in regards to safe traffic access into that roundabout.
Any questions?
I do have a
Yep,
question.
Maris.
Within the report, paragraph 3, it says Safecom on behalf of the CFS have come back to Council to confirm that they have had approval to incorporate the CFF offices within the SAPOL building. Was that something that... so what I'm saying here is that there seems to be an anomaly that we've got SAPOL and that development, and the CFS is a completely separate development. Can you help me?
From what I understand, Mayor Ross, is that SAPOL are on the adjacent land, and they've since obviously had the approval and they're working through that process at the moment. There is a current land division to separate those parcels of land separate from the CFS, and there's also the Safecom as well as the proposed building on that land. So they are still two separate titles, SAPOL and CFS, Safecom, from what I understand.
So it just doesn't, it reads like the CFS are going to be in the SAPOL building.
No, that's not how I understand it.
Page 20 is the attachment on page 20.
Yep.
That's the diagram.
Cool. Yep, I get all that.
Councillor Moore?
I want to speak against the whole proposal, as I did when it was presented first to council, and I think the motion that went through was that we just continued discussions. There was no confirmation on whether we sold the land or not. It's just such an underrated piece of land, and for the sake of $20,000, I don't see the benefits in actually selling it. If you look at the trucks that go around the roundabout, that walkway through there is regularly used by high school children, as well as a lot of the gym goers that run to the gym. It avoids foot traffic, avoiding the roundabout. Obviously, the cars that the community use to put little signs up in their windows along there is a valued spot. I've seen Crayfish Man selling produce there, and also if you go to the OTR any weekend and you actually see the traffic that is coming in and out of that OTR banked up to the point, and I've said this before, where there's actually trucks waiting along Smith Street because they can't actually get in. It's an overflow, not saying for trucks, but for staff parking as well for the OTR. The figures would be quite interesting. I would go as far as saying it's probably one of the busiest OTRs in South Australia. So that little piece of land, for the sake of $20,000, I would rather it stay as, what's it now? Is it council care and control? Road reserve. That it stays as is. If not, I do ask the question through the chair to the CEO, that is it possible that we go to consultation before selling the land, just so council gets a feel on what the community actually want to do with it?
Through you, Chair. My understanding is that so correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not quite across the whole project but I understand that the SAPO aspects of the development are going ahead, they're done, they're locked in. So, and the timing of this is quite tight, so they're looking, I think they would hoping it would go to the last council meeting, but because of a slight delay, it's coming up tonight. So, I mean, anything's council can resolve whatever it wishes to resolve, and if we need to go to consultation, we will.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's not our fault that this tight schedule is in place. It's not our fault that the goalposts have changed as well, so we shouldn't be forced or rushed into making a decision. And that's probably how I felt when I read this report. I did feel a little bit pressured. Thought, well, hang on a minute. The last motion that we moved was just to continue discussions. Now there's a recommendation to sign the land over. So it's a definite no for me, and I'd encourage other elected members to talk to people into the community about that piece of land before you feel pressured into doing anything this evening. Thank you.
Councillor Ireland?
Thanks, Councillor Crossling. If I could look through the chair as to who may be able to answer this for me. And I spoke to Mr. Crossty earlier in the day. I think that's quite a large change from the initial request for land that we received back at that initial meeting. And I just wonder whether, is that locked in? I mean, can we change that? I mean, I think that it is very intrusive on that corner, and I think that I don't want to stand in the way of CFS rebuilding and setting up a great infrastructure in Naracoorte. I mean, that's progression, and with emergency services, I think it's very important. I just wonder whether we can trim back what's put on the board for us tonight, whether we can perhaps align that with the old footpath, for instance, to open up the distance off the roundabout so it's not quite as intrusive.
Through your chair, Councillor, my understanding is that SAFECOM are up to and open to negotiations, so I would suggest that if we were to go back and work towards your alignment of following that footpath, I would suggest that SAFECOM were open to those modifications to see if they can make the concept work in their proposal.
Councillor Ross?
My view there, I'm similar sentiment here. I don't know whether they need all of it. So from you look at the diagrams of what they've got there, they're only potentially putting only a corner of that building there, so they don't necessarily need all that. And to be honest, it's one hand not talking to the other hand either as well. They're looking, the police station have got their concept, they're obviously onto it pretty quickly. I would have thought, even though they're on separate titles, sharing of car parks and things like that surely should have been on a discussion and should have been up there for discussion for them to be looking to try to share particular spaces. So I think they still need to be probably coming back with a concept to better utilise that area. So, and I think there's probably possibilities that they can better be using that land in some other way as well. So rather than just give them all everything, I'd still like to try to keep some sort of thoroughfare for pedestrians and on the same lines of what was being discussed tonight. So I'll be asking him to go back and come back with another proposal.
I agree with Councillor on, and I think there's an opportunity for a boundary realignment around on the roadside. That would allow, a bit of buffering between, what will be some sort of fence and where the public go. It'd allow it to beautify it. In regard to Councillor Ross's question about shared spaces, I've had this conversation with SAPOL, and SAPOL's role and what they do is quite a different role to what CFS does. SAPOL are there to protect the community, and there are people that you'll notice there are cell blocks at the police station, and there are people who actually, when they're delivering them around to that area, that there's not for crossover between other organisations. So shared zones with SAPOL is just not going to happen. But I am absolutely an advocate for a boundary realignment to allow for better buffering, and I'm sure that we can, under point 2, under contract details, be able to have that discussion with SafeCom. I suppose I can declare an interest that I am a CFS volunteer, and I have been heavily involved with CFS, but this is also something that people within our community will say that we're putting the handbrake on state government business. Well, we are open for business, and I think that we try and sell Naracoorte as a regional hub, and to have 2 state emergency services organisations centred and operating out of this location, I think is a very valuable statement that Naracoorte can make to the state government.
Councillor Goodwin.
Just to follow up on a few of those points, I think that a boundary realignment along the lines that's been discussed is a really good approach. But also, in terms of the value of the land and selling it at capital value, I just think it's worth, considering that a little bit more closely. I think we do want to support and encourage those state organisations to have their headquarters here in Naracoorte in the centre of the southeast. But, what is the precedent that we're setting if we're only going to sell it at capital value versus commercial value? And when we've talked previously about, what would be the value of the parklands and who owns them and what would be involved in buying them, it's been that we'd have to buy that at market value. So I just, what's the apples and oranges, and, what are we comparing, and what precedent are we setting, and why would we have to buy at market value when we can only sell, well, we don't only sell, but we're being asked to sell at capital value? I don't know if there's any more insight that can be provided around that other than trying to encourage, headquarters in the southeast. I don't think that it has to be done at the cost to council.
Are they rated?
Is it rateable? I don't know, that'd be a poll question. No.
Not a big question.
No. Alex?
No rating on state government.
Not at the moment.
Not on the emergency services.
Yep.
Do you have any around the...
To go back on Councillor Ross's questions about SAPOL and the individual isolation of 2 premises, even though they both state government ownership, is about safety and security. Safety for those within the compound of SAPO and security in regards to the same process. So that's why initially there was high-level concepts when SAPO were looking to go on site about amalgamating the two headquarters, and SAPO came back and was a very strong no, we work in isolation, that's just how they function. So to answer that question, that's why they did initially look at that process about how they could share services, and it was squashed relatively early in the project. To answer your question in regards to the sale of the land, I think we probably should look at it as in not just necessarily a money-making exercise, but what it's a service that is provided to the community. So we can go out and get appraisals in regards to what the land value is, but on the flip side, it's also a significant benefit having a state-of-the-art, SafeCom facility and SAPOL in the heart of Naracoorte that we should probably encourage as well. But we're open to getting appraisals on the land as well.
Okay. Councillor McGuire.
I guess if we're talking about the boundary realignment, if we're looking at, can we bring that up on the screen? Sorry, thank you. Are we talking the boundary realignment because we actually have got a sealed footpath which comes down to that section, and the part that I'm talking about potentially wanting to save is obviously the corner section where people park their cars and people walk. So if that's the boundary that we're talking about realigning, I'm more than happy for that to be negotiated to keep that section. So only one vote. But if we don't, you're talking safety. Where is our footpath going to go? It's basically a road to nowhere, or let's just make the kids walk on the footpath right next to the roundabout where the trucks are coming in and out of town. So why I'm arguing about keeping that section is because it does actually serve a purpose, and it is a safety. It's avoiding that whole intersection, and we have a footpath that is clear that we clearly use that for that reason, and a lot of school kids and, as I said, gym people use it. So are we going to build a footpath right on the edge around the roundabout?
Sorry, I did have a conversation with Alex and Paul about this, and it's in the report that the site plans have got to allow for that safe connectivity, and there is no intention of us getting rid of a footpath or anything like that. So site plans must allow for continued safe connectivity of pedestrian footpath to and from Stewart Terrace River Highway to the Smith Street footpath, and the continuation of the intersection's clear line of sight. So the intent was through this that we would work with them on what that should look like and make sure that there was no safety issue and no change to the way people could move through that site. And if you click down into the attachment, which is the concept drawing, you can kind of see that they've taken that into consideration.
I thank you for your response, but the recommendation is we still sign it over to them without any sort of concrete proof that is exactly what's going to happen. So the recommendation is that council authorises the CEO to finalise with SafeCom the contract details. Well, I'd like to see that before we move this recommendation.
Meros.
Councillor Crossling, Madam Chair, perhaps we could just dissect the resolution a little bit to get some clarity around that.
We can do that. Everyone's happy to go that way. Do we want to completely scrap what's there? Do we want to keep what's there? I'm open, Kelly.
It could just be that you seek that this committee seeks more information from administration to be presented to council in relation to the concepts, the land value, and the pedestrian
access.
Is there anything like that? It could be that simple.
That's, for me, it covers everything. Meryl? Councillor Ross?
Basically, it's almost like you could always keep it pretty simple, just follow the previous recommendation. That was the council supports the continued discussion with SafeCom on behalf, something to those lines.
And what you said too, I think is a good one.
I would prefer it stay.
Yeah, I would like that. Probably the wording of the market value, whatever, the value, the alignment, and the access. Is that what it was? How'd you say that, Kelly? Can we play back the tape? Strategic Asset and Planning Committee recommends to council, or no, recommends or asks the administration.
Further
I think
information.
the committee can ask the administration to do
Yep,
that.
yep.
So,
We're going to ask
and then we bring it back to the council at the next vote.
administration.
It's the right one.
To clarify, to
Provide further information.
provide further information
Yeah.
around the value. Mr. Grossi.
Just for clarity for administration, I know there's been discussions on this, the boundary alignment. There's a mixed consensus through the room from Councillor Maguire. Can we get some clarity on where the committee currently sits so we can then go back to discussion with SAFCOM?
So we want to bring up, is it easier if we bring up that plan? Because obviously it looks like the top part is the one that's sitting, is going out. Can we go down, sorry?
My thoughts were where the footpath is would be the boundary.
Yeah, that's fine, but I'm not too sure whether the rest of the
No,
committee
that's
on that
understandable.
sense. So I don't want to come back with mixed messages on that.
You just asked, you said my name, so I thought I'd respond to you, Paul. That's my thoughts, if that's okay.
Councillor Maguire, I understand that.
Councillor Maguire, if I may, if the footpath was to become the boundary, the footpath would no longer be usable. You know, it would most probably become a greenfield site, and you'd have to redevelop a footpath within that. So you can certainly make it the boundary, but I think the footpath would not be the footpath anymore.
No, but there is still plenty of room on the other side of the footpath, correct?
We're obviously talking about the appliance shed in the top part, probably more about making sure from what, and we really need split screens here to be able to see the other bit. It's the bottom section, obviously, we're probably a little bit more, there we go. Can we put them next to each other? Got to go? Yeah, something like that. So the green bit's obviously in the top. Am I right in saying that, Mr. McCrosty? Or
Yeah, those
appliance shed would be up the top
the
of
trees are the critical point. Those trees just adjacent to the footpath are where that green building sort of encroaches, and that's sort of about.
So it's more the section where technically the cars park now for, when people are trying to sell their cars, it's that.
Look, it's just my opinion, obviously.
Yeah, I think it's around the room. We're all probably on the same page-ish. Just looking for, obviously, direction for Paul. Yep, Councillor.
Councillor Crossling, I just thought from Mr. McCrosty, I thought perhaps if trying to simplify this so we can get our mind around a boundary realignment, I thought that if we had the western boundary was parallel to the eastern boundary, basically along the path of the footpath. That would give us if that can be even drawn up, that would give us a reasonable amount in the corner. And if we have any, looking for the future, if we need a slip lane, if we need a bit of a barrier because there's a chain mesh fence there to beautify it, if we need whatever, we've got some room there to move. Whereas the way this diagram, this photo displays it, we may only be trapped to a 3 metre footpath all the way around. So that parallel on the western side to the eastern boundary.
So, yeah. So this bit here, literally, from there
Yep. Parallel
down to there would
Yep.
be the boundary. Is
Spot
everyone,
on.
does that sound,
That's
is
what.
that what we're all on the same page?
And to clarify, and picking up Mayor Ross's point, the pathway then is not the path, would need to be redone and re-beautified anyway, but there's enough room there to have that. Yep, thank you.
Plenty of room there, but if we're talking about
At their expense, yes,
from
thank you.
there down to there, does that make sense, Paul? Is that,
Yeah,
is that
I'm fine with it. I just
no,
want
I just want to make sure that we're all clear as mud.
You want that in the words, Paul?
No. Like, as long as we can go back to negotiation with SAFCOM, so we've got an understanding of where the council are coming from. So I just wanted clarity. There wasn't a separate dog leg in there, that there was a vision there that wasn't captured.
So the recommendations there will take all those dot points out. It's more around, we're asking administration to clarify. Information around value.
Was it concept design.
And land value.
Concept design, value,
Drawings, pedestrian
and
access.
pedestrian access. Concept drawings, pedestrian access.
And I suggest you just say prior to bringing it back to council. So SAP is actually recommending that we do those things and bring it back to council, not to SAP.
Okay. Recommends, yeah. So can we take out the to council? We're just going to recommend.
Still recommends to council.
Oh, I didn't. Pardon? Take out recommends?
Yeah, so strategic asset and plan committee asks
To us? Yep. Ask administration. Yep.
the CEO because,
Okay.
or ask the CEO to clarify. And then further information.
Take out the to ask administration beyond the dot point. Further information around land value, concept drawings, pedestrian access prior to bringing the issue back to council. The item back to council. Yep. Item. Yep. Happy? Cool. Is that okay, Kelly? You, Paul?
You happy, Paul?
As in, I just want to make sure that we've clarified it enough to make your job easier, and then you guys go and walk away going, I don't know what they mean.
As long as Councillor Maguire's happy, I'm happy.
Meros is happy to move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goodman. All those in favour? Carried. Beautiful. Thank you. Item 6, reports for information. We have the Botanical Working Group. Daniel?
Nothing further to add to that report, so we'll have nominations closed in a couple of days and that will be brought back to the November council meeting.
Excellent. Do we have nominations? Do we need to be chasing up people?
I've had a couple, yep.
Excellent, excellent. Item 6.2 is the waste disposal vouchers. There's obviously a bit to digest in that, and that's obviously for members' information. I have said to Daniel, obviously there's a fair bit there, and this could be something that we could bring back and discuss when we've probably got a full chamber, because there might be a little bit more discussion to be had. And I've looked into it personally, and I know the Wattle Range Council do it, and it's obviously done on a financial year basis. So we do have time to, obviously, if we want to look at implementing anything, we might not, but we've obviously got a little bit of time up our sleeve. But is there any questions or queries that we want to direct to Daniel at the moment? Yep, Councillor Goodman.
Yeah, thank you for providing this information. I'm not sure if it's too early for you to be able to answer this, but the information provided is what we have budgeted, and I just wondered how that compared to the actual. I think that the feedback I've heard from the community is that they really appreciate these days, and if it would be possible for council to offer 2 per year, that would be valued. And so if it's possible to have some more information about the actual costs, and so that we could, think about that for future, I think that would be really helpful. And I'm not sure if it's possible to present this as kind of options papers for when we consider it at budget time, so that we can see, what voucher system versus the drop-off days kind of looks like.
Compare them both. Yep.
Yeah.
Councillor.
Sorry.
No?
Yeah, I agree. 2 days would be a great idea, and this is really a success from council. The day, the way it's put together, I think even getting in volunteers, well, not volunteers, but the groups that actually get paid to help, whole days run very, very well. The only issue I will just highlight with the vouchers is probably just with what I work and what I see, the people that need the free disposals the most, which are the tenants. I'm not saying they won't receive their voucher, but they're not guaranteed to receive their voucher, and that's always been my sticking point. And that's really, I think, takes the fairness out of what we're trying to do. It should be just free for everybody on the day, not my landlord didn't give me one. So that's the problem we're going to come into with this. Other than that, I think the day, if you speak to most people, was a huge success, and if you Councillor Goodman's idea of doing it twice would probably take that pressure off with the lines and the amount that's done. Just my thoughts again. That's all right.
I support what Councillor Maguire is saying there, because the whole idea of, well, one of the reasons of doing this was to stop illegal dumping, and if people haven't been given the opportunity to do it, then we're going to probably see the more incidences of illegal dumping. So it needs to be fair. Okay, some people would think it's, the ratepayers should be entitled to it, but really it's a broad discussion, it's a broad requirement. So I think we need to keep it quite open.
Maris?
Can you clarify, Mr Willsmore, that the 1 day costs $67,800 extra beyond the contract price that we pay to the people who run the transfer station? So to run the 1 day, about $67,800.
No, so the budget's for 67,000 for 2 days. So we do.
Oh, 2 days. Okay, so for both Naracoorte and Lucendale. So for the 2 days over.
So we don't pay the contractor to run the waste transfer station. They pay us a lease. So we receive a annual figure from them. The 67,000 is for the additional staff and then the disposal of it. So in terms of Councillor Goodman's question before, so budget 67,000, still telling the costs for the recent days, but that's already exceeded that 67,000, so it's mid-70s at the moment. So last year we exceeded the budget then too, so we've been increasing the budget greater than CPI, but it's certainly a well-used a couple of days by the community. So the feedback we get from users through the contractor or our staff when we're there on the day is they would like a second day, another hard waste drop-off day, not necessarily vouchers, just another hard waste day. So that aligns with your comments before. So did that answer your question, Mayor Ross, in terms of the cost?
I think so.
Yep. So yeah, we don't need a decision now, like Councillor Crossling suggested, but do we still want to go down the path of vouchers, or we want to look at providing an additional budget for an extra day in Naracoorte, extra day in Lucendale?
Can I just ask a question? Sorry, Councillor, Mayor Ross, I guess reading into what you're asking, is the bill sent to us with the additional tonnage of waste? Is that what we get billed for?
So instead
plus
of
the staff?
So if you dropped your hard waste off tomorrow, you'd have to pay for it. So instead of the contractor giving you the bill, the contractor gives us the bill.
Yep. So it's not done by weight, it's done by per trailer load as...
Depending on what it is, yeah, so it's typically based on volume, so the trailer, but if it's e-waste, for example, it's based on tonnage. So yeah, we pay for it instead of the resident paying for it.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Okay.
The only thing I've heard, and it's one thing, is that working days aren't Monday to Friday anymore, and a lot of people do work on the weekend. So I do find when I've had that conversation with people that have asked about could we do vouchers like Wattle Range, it is for those people that aren't available on those weekends, actually work weekends. So that's the only thing I can think of. But like, I think it's one comment. I think the 2 days would probably be a great, one earlier in the year and one this time of year. You feel like you want to do a bit of a clean out. Obviously this time of year with spring cleaning, but maybe looking at 2. Is everyone, Mayor Ross?
On speaking with Mr Brooker today, they were maxed out at whatever it was. They can't do any more. That's maxed. And I spoke with him about the opportunity to spread that over the entire year. And he said that'd be his preference. So his preference would be for people to be able to bring their hard waste whenever they've got it available and deliver it to the waste transfer station in the working hours with a voucher for a trailer load or 12 trailer loads a year. That would be his preference. People are there working. He has people there on Sunday. He said sometimes there's a little rush early in the morning or at midday. He said, but the rest of the time, his employee is twiddling his thumbs. So his preference is to spread it out across the year. And I know from a rate, and I take your point, Councillor Maguire, but for those people who deliver rubbish, their preference is to be able to deliver it when they've got it. Interestingly enough, Councillor Ross, your question about dumping, they haven't, which they use the voucher system down there, and I suppose that's what they call fly dumping or whatever it was. I saw it today, left on the side of the road and fly on. It certainly has reduced, that incidence in Wattle Range. Bearing in mind they have 5 stations in Wattle Range across their landscape.
Through the chair to the mayor, would it be an option, or even to Daniel, to send the vouchers out sort of a month before, but to the resident? So each house will get one posted to the resident. So whether you're a tenant or a landlord, that house will get. So that could be an option.
So in fact, if I may, I actually took the opportunity to speak with Wattle Range today, and that's what you get. And they also, so SA Housing Trust tenants, they are treated separately. So you've got SA Housing, or whether it be Unity, like they are the landlord, but the tenants actually get the voucher. So that's a separate thing just for those sort of tenants. And I'm sure that landlords would be the same. They'd want their rubbish to be taken off their property. So, yeah.
Wattle Range does actually stipulate in there, so they obviously encourage the vouchers to be passed on to their tenants. It has been brought up actually at the Naracoorte Network Services meeting from Unity Housing about the vouchers, because they did say that down at Wattle Range it does work really well for a lot of the Unity Housing tenants and things like that. So maybe that's something we should look at.
I may have a second turn. In response to Mr. Willsmore's question about do we still want to go down the voucher path or not, it sounds like there are some thoughts about pursuing that further. So I think maybe if we had an options paper presented with the pros and cons and the costs, because whilst that sounds good, I just looked up the waste transfer station hours and it's 10 till 12, Monday to Friday. Again, that's not going to be convenient for everyone. And I think that there is a real appreciation from the Lucindale community about having a day there as well. So I think if we had some options papers presented where it was, we could have a discussion about that. I think it would be very useful.
I know Wattle Range is 12. It's not to say that we have to start with something that big. It could be a couple of vouchers. I don't know. It could be. We could do whatever we saw fit, I suppose, as a chamber. Anyway, good discussion. It's all for food for thought. Thank you very much for your input in that one. So we'll go on to item 7, questions with notice. I have none.
I've got a question somewhere. I'm not quite sure whether it's there.
That would be without notice. Is
it still there somewhere?
Yep.
Okay.
Item 8, motions with notice. I have none. Item 9, questions without notice. Mayor Ross.
Is it already sitting somewhere?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm just following the agenda.
So, question without notice. Maybe a month ago or more, I was had a discussion about gazanias when they started flowering on Cedar Avenue and other places around town, and I went, whoa, these are quite a thing, especially in South Australia. They are a real thing, and in our town. In the meantime, we've had a letter from Mr. Kester, which was noted. At the time of my noticing of gazanias, I approached our man Gris, and on that very day had a conversation with Mr. Tucker around the management of gazanias more generally. And I'd like to imagine that perhaps, the council could set up a management plan around, the control of gazanias more broadly within our landscape, within the Naracoorte Township. I think I don't see them more broadly in the landscape like they do in other parts of the state, but certainly in this township, gazanias are very obvious at the moment, and we do have a responsibility to control gazanias.
Councillor Good.
Mayor Ross, would you consider broadening that? Because we have a responsibility to control all of the declared weeds, and I think in our last budget we might have had some money put aside for the development of a weed management plan. I'm not sure whether that progressed, but if that fell into a broader weed management plan for our district, because if you're hitting gazanias, you might hit a few other things at the same time.
We shouldn't be ad hoc. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mr. McCostu or Mr. Woodmore? Anyone want to take that, or we're just going to take that one on notice?
I will take that on notice. So we work with NRM, as they were back in the day, on Landscapes SA, on how we can control gazanias. I will point out there's been commentary about council planting under a previous nursery owner's direction gazanias along Park Terrace. Council or the previous nursery owner has no recollection of that, so we don't have any records of us planting gazanias. We do control them in accordance with Landscapes SA guidelines, but we can bring back a look at undertaking a management plan and costs associated with the log.
Thank you. Item 10, motions without notice. Excellent. And obviously we have item 11, matters the CEO recommends to be considered in confidence. And then we have the date of our next meeting, which I was going to say this one here is January, but it will end up being the 10th of February, as we have obviously shifted our January meeting. And I will declare the meeting closed at 6:50. Thank you all for attending.